Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Sean here with BlueRidgeSilverhound. Always a pleasure, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, straight up. We are going to be taking a stroll through some pretty notable 2021 U.S. coinage that's out there today. And we're going to kind of take a look at all of these crazy errors that people have been finding. Just kind of assessing where the market is currently. Keep in mind, we're 2/3 of the way through the month of November. So, kind of figure this to be your, I guess, go-to kind of like searcher's guide. Because a lot of coins that we are coming across through the banks, if you're lucky enough to get either full boxes or even rolls, I picked up a few yesterday, and they were all 2021. Herein lies the problem of where I'm at. We have Denver coins because we're on the West Coast. Distribution is that Denver minted coins stay on like the west of the Mississippi. You know, as far east as Texas. There's a lot of areas there that receive Denver minted coins. So you would literally have to be on the east side of the Mississippi to find a lot of the good stuff that people are finding and making a boatload of money on. A few things, okay? Not only are we going to talk about 2021 coinage and how much those are selling for today, you gotta know when to strike while the iron's hot, right, boys and girls? We are going to take a look at it, and then this will give you some perspective on what to look for, when to sell it, should you hold, keep it in your collection, whatever. All right, there's going to be some pretty incredible kind of parallels running here. But not only are we going to look at 21s, we're going to look at 2020 yet, you know. Yeah, sure, it's a year away, but a lot of those coins that were hitting all sorts of like buzz upon release, you know. We had the West Point quarters come out in 2019. And then we had a pandemic followed by, well, less than desirable quality controls that the U.S. Mint have certainly kind of resulted in some pretty remarkable looking coins. Some people would say, well, the quality just plain straight out sucks. Who cares? They're giving you guys an opportunity to get some free tendies. I was going to say tenders. Tenderfoot. Free tendies out there. You guys are looking to make some money before the holidays. This is certainly the way to go. Free, easy, low-hanging fruit type of errors to look out for. So there's been a few notable 2021 coins that have been found and that are selling exceedingly well. Maybe a little bit too well. So we're on eBay. This is, of course, the go-to place to sell all these, right? It's the biggest, widest marketplace with the farthest reaching type of buyer base, you know, customer base out there. So what I did was I went to US coins. I typed in 2021 error. Of course, this excludes any currency that may exist out there. But we're going to take a look at first the 2021 errors that people have been finding. They've been shooting on eBay and have just been raking it all in. So what I did was sorted it by sold sales. And I did highest to lowest. But the first notable coins that we're going to come across, of course, there's one that really, I can't believe that this one was even in a 2021 nickel roll. But there's a 2021 P, Jefferson Nickels. This coin is double struck with the second strike that is oh so slightly off center, maybe by about 5–10%. But if we were to go into this listing, first of all, it's being sold by a huge seller. All right, so I have no doubt in my mind that this is truly legit. But take a look at that, $535 with 16 bits. Okay, you just never know where you're going to find this stuff or what you're going to find. If it looks interesting, you pulled it out of a roll or something, then it is certainly worth talking about. All right, so what are we dealing with here? It's double struck. This is probably not the best image to blow up, but if we did this, then you could see the bottom part there where it's where you could see that little sliver on there, you could see some of the design details. The obverse is really not the most spectacular part about this coin, and it does have some of those scrapes there. Don't know if that's from the minting process or if that was a result of it going through a change counter or the hopper and all of the machinery that it takes to package these up into the paper rolls. But if we looked on the reverse of the coin, this is where you're really going to find a lot of cool stuff. Now, no, this is not a garage job, and I'll tell you why. Double struck coins, okay, will feature devices that are in relief, which means they're essentially raised or embossed, or they're sticking up out of the coin. Whereas, like a vice job, the devices would be mirrored and they would be sunken in. You take a few coins and you squeeze them together in a shop vise, and that's how you can achieve a poor man's kind of double struck coin. Not legit. And if you look on the edge here, you certainly see some of those devices that have been cut off because that second strike is slightly off center. But this is a brand new 2021 nickel, Philadelphia struck, no big surprise there, that someone had found and had sold for $535. I don't know why I'm thinking this, but that seems very cheap to me. But just think, that's a coin that you could find today in a roll or in circulation. Can you imagine getting something like this back when you're buying your morning cup of coffee or lunch, or when you go to a grocery store and you get change back and you got this thing staring at you in the face? It's like someone coming up and handing you 5 crispy $100 bills into your hand. All right, so that's the first big notable one. Of course, it's the only one that I've seen on eBay, so it's more than likely a one-off type of error. There might be more, but again, the person that found this, do you think that they were going into it expecting to find a double-struck coin out of 2021 coins? Irrespective of what the quality controls has been, does anybody ever plan on finding something like this? Probably not. All right, and there have been a number of pretty surprising errors found on the Morgan dollars that were sold by the U.S. Mint. More specifically, the Denver minted examples, and I'm gonna show you one coin as soon as I come up to it, with a pretty phenomenal strike through. And I don't know how in the world, ladies and gentlemen, that a coin like that has made it through quality control or whatever table scrap version of quality control department that they have going. But it's pretty incredible. Like, this is kind of like some of those things that we're seeing today in these 2021 Morgan dollars. And again, most of what I've found with some of these strike throughs and weird stuff going on has been the Denver coins. This one has some sort of struck through, maybe a detached reading or some sort of rim burr or something like that. Sold for $350 rather, right there. And another one just like it, or it might be the same coin, maybe a relist. Pretty close. So with shipping, $345. Let's see what we have here. Here's a 2021, again, another Denver minted coin. Make sure you guys are looking through your Denvers for things like this. This one right here sold for $305. It's got actually what looks to be a Scarface variety on this brand new commemorative type coin. So it looks like a strike through or something right there on the cheek. All right, so the first notable coin that we're going to talk about that you guys have heard about for the better part of the last 90 days has been this Tuskegee Airmen Strikethrough Quarter. Now, this is the one right here that has progressively been going up in value. We've seen these things start at around $100 90 days ago, and this particular example right here sold for $301, and that's with 26 bids. So it's not like a buy it now listing where someone snapped it up, put it in their cart, and then checked out. There were a lot of people bidding on this one. It probably went a duration of 7 days for the listing. But take a look at this, ladies and gentlemen. This is the marquee 2021 coin that people are monetizing on currently. They are all Philadelphia struck examples. They are all 2021. This is the final design of the National Park Series coin that can only be found in 2021 rolls. So for those of you who have had just nothing but the most difficult time of obtaining rolls where there's like a really healthy mix of new coins and circulation coins, you know, kind of like a regular bankroll as you would expect, but all you're finding are brand new 2021s. For those of you on the East Coast, you should really take this as a prime opportunity, a gift from the higher powers that be, to really go through them, especially if you have full rolls of Tuskegee Airmen. These coins are going to be hot for years to come. And I'm going to tell you why here shortly. And we're going to actually use a coin from last year as kind of a model and an example as to why this particular quarter will be worth more money in a few years. But as you can see, the strike through is just a result of just a gross amount of grease and debris and all sorts of other stuff that's hardened up and had landed, or in this particular case, since this is the reverse image, this is more than likely the anvil die, so there is a piece of grease stuck onto the die. Maybe it's collected at that particular point and has sat there and it struck a few examples. The first initial strike of a fully formed piece of grease with debris is actually really hard, and it's going to produce the most radical version of the strike through. But the reason why that this is taken off is because the Tuskegee Airmen is a tribute to the to these gentlemen that flew during World War II. Of course, it was a very turbulent time. You know, it was like, it's a war, you know, and the burning building with these aircraft flying in the background, and you know, you can almost imagine a missile hitting that building, like, you know, as you would expect from World War II. This is a incredibly well placed strike through. It would be different if, say, the strike through were on the flight suit, or maybe over the water right there, you know, or above the airplanes or something like that. You know, we've even seen some, I believe, that's trailing on the aircraft like they're smoking. That's another good one too. But this is simply just a coincidental, well-placed gob of grease that the coin, you know, that was a strike through. So this one right here, this is a November 10th auction for $301. This is a relatively recent example of that coin. As we come on down the line, here's one that sold November 15th for an unspecified amount of money, because there's a slash mark through the dollar amount, which indicates the best offer was accepted, probably $250 to $275, I would imagine. But this one has a much bigger strike through, with some strike through just under the airplane, as if the airplane was smoking. All right, so this is a big one right here. This is going to be one that, ladies and gentlemen, I would certainly keep an eye on. I'm not going to say go out and buy them. As a matter of fact, I expect you guys to do the exact opposite. Seeing as how these coins have been selling for between like $175 and $300 as of this taping, these are coins that will give you big returns off of one find. All right, so here's the other coin that is just simply ridiculous, and that's the 2021 Morgan. This, however, is a P-minted coin, and this example is struck through with a little piece of plastic. Like, are you kidding me? Like this is the type of quality that we're seeing from the mint, and it's on these commemorative Morgan dollars that people had waited a long time to obtain. And this thing was just on the coin when it came in to this particular buyer. But this one sold for with shipping $269. So make sure you guys are checking out your Morgan and possibly your piece as well to see if more stuff like this comes up. It might just be worth selling. All right, because these coins are incredibly popular. They've dipped down in price a huge deal, And they're an easy pickup if you like the series. In 2022, the U.S. Mint will be releasing a proof version of both the Morgan and Peace dollar. So that's another thing to look forward to. But this right here, all sorts of different strike-throughs and weirdness going on. The Morgan dollar series, again, the D minted, and it looks like the Philadelphia minted examples have been targets for this anomaly on there. All right, so the other coin that we're going to talk about that is starting to lose a little bit of its popularity or its luster, or maybe there's just too many of them on the secondary market, is going to be the hamburger die chip, or crown die chip, as well a lot of people alluded to, on the 2021 P Washington crossing the Delaware quarter. This is going to be my absolute proclamation that if you guys do have these, you might want to consider selling them if you're looking to make some money while they're still selling for something. Now, this is a coin right here with a bunch of different progressions from the earlier states that show tiny little die chips, and then it gets progressively bigger until you get to the late stage part of this, where you actually have the die chip that creeps into E pluribus unum. So, you know, it really obscures some of the letters there. And that is the most latest state of this coin. That is the most desired on the secondary market. As you can see, this is an example that sold for $256 with 37 bids. You can see that right here. But this is on September 26th. This is kind of like the peak or the twilight of desirability for this quarter. Since then, the prices have dropped quite substantially. There was a seller, I think like 2 days ago, that had a few of them and had ended all the coins on the same day, probably within like 15 minutes of each other. And they all dropped down to like 75 to 100 bucks. So, you know, the supply is starting to meet demand because the prices are super adjusting to that. But, you know, as recently as 2 weeks ago, this is a quarter that was selling in excess of $200. Now, there is, in the world of modern errors, there is a pretty big difference between the long-term value and viability of die chip errors and those of strike-throughs. The big difference here is that die chips seem to fade away over time. All right, and it doesn't matter how big or crazy it is. I've seen some Lincoln Shield cents from like 7-8 years ago with pretty crazy huge die breaks that go through the date that have plummeted in value to like 20 bucks, where at the year of release they were selling for a few $100. So again, well placed, even though it's on the date, it's like knotted up and crazy. This is another example of a coin right here that's going to eventually drop down to a value in which it is commensurate with the actual error. Again, I don't know why. I think with strike-throughs, the coincidental placement of a strike-through on a coin will determine its long-term value. Like, take for instance the 2005 Kansas State quarters with the strike-through on "In God We Trust" to where it reads "In God We Rust," because the T in trust is a filled die with grease and stuff. It is a strike through, but all the coins say "In God We Rust," and you know that's a coin even today in nice condition. Can sell for about 50 bucks, but most of them sell for between $8 and $12 circulated. So that is a coin that has aged tremendously, even though that particular strike through is small, it's weak, it's not, you know, in your face. But again, the placement of that, where it's you lose the T in trust, so that way it spells rust, is important. So, you know, this is a coin that if you still have these, and there's no shortage of them, people are finding these, and they are subsequently selling them. So here's one. Here's a really nice one that sold for $205. Take note of the dates, November 4th. Here's one from the 27th that sold for $202. There's a lot of them. Here's October 26th for $205. Here's another one of those Tuskegee Airmen strike throughs. This one is a little bit smaller scale of a strike through, but it's got a bunch of trailings on the back of it, which gives it a really nice appearance. Sold for $202. But as you can see, these quarters have been kind of selling all over the place. The crown die chips, rather. Some of these, here's November 3rd. We are officially under $200 for this one. Here's November 8th. There you go, 177. I think I highlighted that one on a PCMR. Here's November 11th for 177, so that's a week ago. November 15th, a best offer was accepted, but you better believe that's probably maybe 150, like 125 to 150. Here's another Tuskegee Airman. See that strike through? It's smaller, it's thinner too. That one sold for 175. This is like easy money right here. Let's see, November 12th, 177. So the prices are still decent, but the extra supply that hit the market a few days ago put a little bit of a blip on the radar on the values of these. But for this one might actually buck the trend a little bit. And the reason why I say that is that because this huge die chip is on Washington's hat, and it gets to a size to where it looks like a crown, this might actually, I take that back. It might actually have some long-term staying power for value. So we'll have to wait and see. But those are the most notable 2021 errors to look out for. And, there are in quarters. So personally, I would search more quarters, for these if you are on the East Coast. That's going to be incredibly important. But as you can see, prices are just really strong based off of the overall size of the anomaly on there. Look at this one here. November 7th. This is a kind of like a mid-state progression of that die chip, and it's still sold for $112. We haven't seen any pennies or dimes or anything. So yeah, the targets have been going elsewhere here. So the Tuskegee Airmen. Here's another one here. 2021 Washington crossing to Delaware. It's like a booger kind of strike through coming out of the nose here, and that one sold for $90. Okay, well here's another good one. There is a seller that's reported that he has found a number of these. Catch Collectibles. Tom Catch found, I think probably like a full roll's worth of 2021 Jefferson Nickels with about a 45 to 50, 60 degree rotation. So if you flip the coin over, the reverse is rotated about 45 degrees on average. He has some that are a little bit less, a little bit more. This one's 50. This one sold for $88. And again, you see 16 bids. So that's another good one to look out for. And these always retain their value. I generally don't see major die rotation errors plummet down to like $5-10. Usually they hold right around like $40 for a BU example. So that's something. Here's another one from the same seller, $81. That's with 11 bids. See if we could come across a penny. I didn't see any. Another one from the same seller here, $71. There's another for 70. More die chips, but see the dates on these. September 14th. This is when they were beginning to show some interest, and the prices. I remember talking about this in September. I'm like, man, this is really ridiculous. These coins are selling for $50, $75. And then here we are. We're talking about these quarters that have sold in excess of $200. And, it just shows me that I was wrong all along. But, yeah, you can just see, going back to August, when these, I think they first came out right in early August or late July. When these were found, yeah, they were selling for $50, $75. And it was like, man, can you imagine buying like 10 of them, 20 of them back in the day for $50, $60 a pop, and then flipping them for $200, $300 today? or 3 weeks ago when they were still $200 to $300. Pretty insane. But there you go. Yeah, and then the strike throughs on the Tuskegee Airmen, September is when they first got their stride. So a lot of these errors has certainly been kind of like the new discovery type. Look at this, September 4th. That's a big one too. Sold for $45. Golly, that's a coin today. It sells for $300 because it's the big strike through with the trails on them. But there you go. That's 2021 coins there for you. Go ahead and look for them while you can. All right, so like I promised, we're also going to give you guys a little bit of a bonus fare on this video, and that's 2020 errors as well. What are we expecting here? Well, you guys certainly remembered the 2020 American Samoa back quarter that I talked about like 4 weeks ago. That sold for $1,250. As I would expect, that's a legit sale. The big difference is this particular example right here is graded by PCGS as Mint State 64, and it says strike through right on the label. And because of all those things and how big the strike through is on the bat's face, that's where this one just hit the perfect kind of circumstantial bidding. Actually, not even bidding. This is a buy it now listing. Someone added this to their cart and checked out, and now they own a really awesome high-end piece right here. But yeah, the American Samoa quarters has been the big error from 2020 that people are still actively looking. As a matter of fact, there's one that's currently in bidding right now with like 2 days left. It's up to $53, but it's a raw example. It's a little bit circulated. I think it's probably more of a Mint State 62. That one, we might take a look at it here so that way you guys can gauge it. But here's one that caught me by surprise, and it's the 2020 Lincoln Shield cent with a big, huge bisecting die crack on the reverse. This was a November 5th sale of a really nice Mint State example that sold for $525. It was actually coined as being a shattered split die break cut. But as you can see on this coin, it's just got a really strong and phenomenal, very noticeable die crack that goes from the D in United through the shield with a little bit of displacement. I mean, this thing is nuts. It's got a big die chip right above the letter E in 1, and then it goes through the rest of the shield and exits out the other side of the rim there. So just a really neat coin right here. And again, the bigger, the bolder, the just absolute nastiness of an error on any coin will make it that much more desirable. And case in point, this is one right here that has been found a few times and sold. And we're going to actually take a look at a few more of those in here. This one's cool. This is a 2020 West Point Tallgrass Prairie with a strike through right over the B in Liberty to where it loses the top little curl of the B. And they're sold for $430. It's a raw coin, sold September 14th. It's little things like that you should look for. I don't know what this says. I think it's damaged. Here's a graded NGC Mint State 65 of that same bisecting die crack on a Lincoln Shield cent. This one doesn't look as good as the previous example, even though it's a 65 red. This one sold for $375. And seeing as how the previous example that sold for $5.25 was sold about a week or two ago, this is a coin that you don't have to grade because you know it'll hit that pricing stride outside of a graded holder. It wouldn't make any sense to do that. 2020, here's another American Samoa with a strike through right onto bat face, $300. Raw examples have been selling for between $200 and $400 for the major, like, fully involved strike-throughs of the bat face. Here's an American Samoa. This one is a little bit off-center. Again, rare are off-center, broad strike, and partial tilted collars on these new National Park quarters are extremely desirable. You can see this one right here, $250 back in September, is a pretty nice amount of money. Here's another one of those bisecting die cracks. A certain amount of money was accepted August 29th. So that's an older sale. You've seen that that coin has appreciated in value. Take a look at this thing. 2020 struck through bat American Samoa National Park quarter. 4 bids, $220. Sold about 3 weeks ago, October 29th. I believe this is the coin that we have here featured. But yes, the American Samoa and Weir Farm strike-throughs are hot. They are incredibly hot right now. The bats are just on a completely different level. I mean, look at this thing. It's pretty nutty. But if you could find these, and they're still out there, and they should still be in relatively good condition, you should certainly pull this aside. And it doesn't matter what size a strike-through is. Pull it aside if you intend on selling it and taking advantage of the hot market for these. Do it now. Don't wait until next year. And the big reason why, and the sense of urgency that I'm doing this video, is to make you guys realize that 2022 is a foremost uncertainty. We do know that, well, as far as quality is concerned and the employee count at the Mint, what we do know is there's going to be a new American Women's series of quarters, 5 coins per year for the next 4 years, that will be going on. Now, if you guys know your schedule of uncirculated coin product that hits the streets, you'll know that Lincoln cents start first, and those drop generally the first 2 weeks of February. And then quarters are slowly thereafter with the first design. Usually that's like first, second week of February as well. And that's why I'm doing this video, is to make you guys aware. We are just like 2/3 of the way through the month of November. There's still plenty of time to go out there and pick up these rolls. People have been complaining the last 90 days of not finding a coin out there, and when they are, it's all brand new 2021 rolls, and they end up sending it back to the bank. And I have to continuously tell people, like on Facebook and on Instagram and on YouTube chat, go through them. Go through them. Check out these errors that have been being found and have been being sold for some pretty easy profits. I mean, if you don't like them, at least go through them to find these. And a few people have taken my advice and have found some pretty remarkable, like, strike-throughs and various die chips and all that stuff. But do not throw back your 2021 or 2020 rolls. Please go through them. There's just so much money to be made right now. You know, again, we are in extraordinary times where the pandemic has really grappled and kind of really limited the overall high quality nature of U.S. coinage, and you gotta take advantage of that, because if you don't, we're gonna look back 5 years, you know, in 2027, we're gonna look back and you're like, yeah, that's our bad. We should have taken advantage of it. Maybe technology's changed in 5 years where everything's all laser etched and all sorts of great weird stuff happens, and there's like, all we have is perfect coins. Or there may not be coins at all. Maybe, you know, the Fed Reserve decides, hey, let's do away with coins because everything's going digital. It could happen just like that, but I doubt it. I hope not. But yes, there is definitely a sense of urgency here. And if you're not taking advantage of this opportunity, I mean, here's an Offcenter 2020 sold for $150. I don't even have to click into it, but I could see slightly Offcenter. Here's another one of those pennies, October 6th for $133. It's a black and white photo, so that's kind of weird. Here's another one, $127, pretty nice. Here's a really well circulated example, sold August 29th for $115. This is cool. A lot of 2020 pennies. They were all off center. I could see it too. 110 bucks. Of course, I'm only paying attention to the coins that are legit. There are some coins that are environmentally damaged and, not worth a conversation. Here's a tall grass prairie with a little bit of a strike through on there. 75 bucks. So that's another one, another Easter egg to look for. 2020 Salt River Bay with a double clipped planchet. Look at that thing. 52 bucks. That is more rare than any one of the strike through Tuskegee Airmen's. But as you can see, easy money to go around all over the place. I am at awe of what is out there right now, and I would certainly take advantage. I mean, really, U.S. Mint's still cranking out off-center coinage on brand new 2020s. Look at that. You can take advantage of that. 45 bucks. But there you go. That's what I wanted to talk about. This is kind of like the first complimenting video of some of the coins that you should probably be paying attention to while we are still in 2021. Because, again, once the brand new 2022s come out, which is going to be in a few short months, these are going to be harder to find, number one. Number two, for those of you that have been following the West Point circulation quarters from 19 and 20, all of the coins that are being found in circulation of that type are all in pretty rough shape. They're pretty well circulated. None of them grade no higher than like XF to AU now. You might find that one outlier that's like a mid-state 62, but people haven't been finding really nice prime examples of those quarters lately. Even being a part of Facebook, nobody's finding really nice gem examples of any of those. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to bring awareness of what is being found out there. All sorts of weird errors, like, tilted collars, broad strikes, and all sorts of weird stuff on these quarters all over the place. And they're out there. So I want you guys to hone in on these. I know that this is probably not high on your priority radar for coin hobby stuff, obviously, but we're about 6 weeks away from the end of the 2021 calendar year, so might as well, right? At least someone's taking advantage of it, because all I get's Denver's out here. I can't find any of this stuff. I might have to actually pull the plug and buy some BU rolls and pay whatever stupid premium exists out there. It is what it is. That's the market. It's not stupid. That is the market. And if you want it, you'll go for it. But that's going to go ahead and do it, guys. We got the PCMR Saturday morning, tomorrow morning. So I wish you guys the best in all of your hunting endeavors. Again, shoot to the bank. Grab some 2020 and 21 BU rolls while they're still available out there. And get yourself a lion's share of a lot of the free, easy money that people are making off these. But that's going to go ahead and do it, guys. First-hand proof of what's everything selling here. And no fluff, no stuff. I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed today's content. Hit the dislike button if you don't. And that's going to go ahead and do it, my Coinaholics. I will see you tomorrow sometime for the PCMR. You guys take care. Best of luck in your hunts. And I'll see you on the next coin video. So long.